They ignore your calls, your words, your presence. But the moment you disappear, they can't sleep, replaying every detail, wondering why you left. Silence cuts deeper than confrontation, it haunts. Machiavelli built his legacy on this truth: people only value what they fear losing, and absence is the sharpest weapon of all. This video reveals how to turn silence into psychological dominance, a strategy that makes respect return, ego collapse, and those who dismissed you start chasing again. The moment they sense you need them, control slips into their hands. But the instant they believe they've lost you, the tables turn, they begin to need you back. People are wired to value what's scarce, it's primal, unconscious, and unbreakable. Chase too hard, and doubts creep in. Why are they desperate? What are they hiding? If they want me this badly, maybe they're not as valuable as I thought. I can have them whenever I want. Now compare that to the one who withdraws. No anger, no explanation, just silence. Suddenly the mind flips. Did I do something wrong? Why aren't they chasing anymore? What if I've already lost them? This is Machiavellian reverse psychology. You don't beg to be chosen, you create the illusion that your value was always obvious, and they failed to see it. That illusion is stronger than words, praise, or explanations. It makes people chase ghosts. Machiavelli never believed in endlessly proving your worth. He trusted absence to do the speaking. Like the Romans, he understood the tactic of strategic withdrawal: retreat, appear weak, and when they pursue, strike from the shadows. The same rule governs psychology. Leave the chat without warning. Step away from a one-sided bond. Ignore a manipulator's last message, not out of spite, but to reset control. Silence sends one message louder than any confrontation: I'm not trying to be in your world. You're trying to be in mine. And it hits harder because it leaves no closure, no answer, only reflection. And reflection breeds guilt, regret, obsession. When you chase, whether a person, a goal, or a status, you silently confess. You're above me. Your approval defines my value. I will work for your attention. And with every effort, your worth drops. Because power is not what you hold, it's what others believe you can walk away from. People don't chase the pursuer, they chase the one who can leave without fear. That's why Machiavellian strategy begins with emotional detachment. If you need them, they own you. If you can walk, you own the frame. And ownership of the frame is control itself, achieved without arguing, without explaining, without raising your voice. Nothing unsettles like silence. Think of the last time someone simply stopped talking: no insult, no rage, no goodbye. Just nothing. That void echoes. What happened? Was I not enough? Did they find better? That isn't rejection, it's haunting. Machiavelli knew. A visible enemy can be prepared for, a silent one is the most dangerous. Chasing is loud, it exposes your intent, your weakness. But withdrawing quietly creates mystery. And mystery is the seed of obsession. It happens faster than you think. Stop feeding someone's ego, stop giving them that subtle meal of validation, and they notice. First they dismiss it. Then they rationalize it. But soon it gnaws at them. They replay your messages. They scroll your profile. They wait for the hey that never comes. And with every passing day, your value rises, not because you've changed, but because they finally see the truth: you never needed them. They needed your need. Without it, they face only emptiness. That's why the advice: always express your feelings, don't play games as a trap. Machiavelli would laugh at it. Show all your cards, and you hand them the blueprint to control you. The emotionally intelligent don't reveal feelings out of purity, they reveal them only when it serves their position. Honesty, for them, is a dagger, hidden, precise, drawn only when useful. So sometimes the most strategic move is the simplest: go dark. Let silence be the mirror. That isn't immaturity, it's power. Stop explaining, mystery dies with explanation. Stop chasing, the moment you stop moving, they start. Stop caring out loud, care with intent, not emotion. Withdraw with calmness, not drama. Fade like smoke. Calm, composed, unreadable. Let them feel your absence. It will speak louder than your presence ever could. Because in Machiavelli's world, the one who controls attention wins, and attention isn't won by demanding it, but by disappearing when they expect you to stay. That's when they begin to beg. People only chase what they fear losing. They only obsess over what they can't control. They only value what leaves them uncertain. This is the brutal truth of human psychology, and it's why Machiavelli's most dangerous tactic was never persuasion or domination, but removal. You don't need to shout, you don't need to prove anything. One move is enough: withdraw. Do it right, and their own mind becomes the battlefield. The brain is wired to obsess over the unfinished. When someone says, "I don't like you," it stings but passes, there's closure. But when someone simply vanishes without reply or explanation, the mind can't let it go. It replays the silence on a loop, filling the void with questions. Psychology calls this the Zeigarnik effect. Unresolved loops are remembered more intensely than resolved ones. Machiavelli knew it centuries earlier, without the science. What is left unexplained becomes feared. And what is feared becomes powerful. That is the weapon. Stop chasing. Give them silence. Let them burn their energy trying to decode you. Chasing, in contrast, exposes 4 fatal signals: impatience, which reveals your immaturity; desperation, which hands them all the power; dependence, which ties your emotions to their response; and predictability, which strips you of mystery. Machiavelli's verdict is simple: the predictable man becomes disposable. But when you stop chasing, even abruptly, the void you create becomes magnetic. Here's where it gets ruthless. Even those with endless options, people admired and validated constantly, fall into the trap. Why? Because ego is fragile. Deep down, everyone carries the same belief: if they liked me once, they'll always like me. If I ignore them, they'll only try harder. But when you don't, when you stop responding, when you refuse to beg, when you rebuild without them, their world cracks. They don't beg because they miss you, they beg because you shattered the frame that gave them power. And in a world where power is everything, that cut is worse than heartbreak. But silence isn't automatically power. It only works when it's deliberate. Passive silence is what the weak do when they're hurt, ghosting from pain, fear, or shame. Strategic silence is different. It's a weapon, precise, cold, and calm. It says, "I no longer play this game. You had your chance. Now your value in my world has expired." The door didn't close, it disappeared. That kind of silence doesn't leave them curious, it leaves them desperate to restore control. That's why they start chasing, not because you spoke, but because you stopped speaking altogether. Every connection, romantic, social, professional, runs on one unspoken question: who is more replaceable? The one who chases always seems more replaceable, because they behave as though they believe it. But the one who walks away in silence flips the frame. Without saying a word, they declare, "I was never chasing you. I was testing if you deserved me. I didn't lose anything, you did." This isn't rejection, it's elevation. That's when panic sets in, not rage or resentment, but the dull ache of missed opportunity. And nothing haunts the mind like what could have been. In love, you liked them, you showed it, you tried. They pulled away. So you stop. No guilt trip, No sarcasm, just silence. 2 weeks later, they're watching your stories, liking old posts, messaging. "Hey, been thinking of you." They can't handle the vacuum. In business, you pitch your idea, they hesitate. Instead of chasing, you say one line. "All good either way, I'm already in motion." Suddenly they scramble, unsure if you're walking away, worried you've found better options. In social life, you always initiate plans. They flake and delay. Then you stop. And when the invitations dry up, they reach out, not because they miss the plan, but because they miss being wanted. The frame is everything, and power belongs to whoever controls it. He who defines the terms defines the relationship. And no frame is more lethal than this: "You don't need to choose me. But I don't need to wait." That truth is terrifying to anyone addicted to being chased. The most Machiavellian move is to thrive in their absence. Let them watch you grow. Let them see you shine. Let them realize they were never your destination, only a detour. That isn't revenge. That's dominance. And it begins with one act: stop chasing. By the time they beg, you'll be too far ahead to care. Because detachment, when done with strategy, strikes at the core insecurity. What if I was never as important as I thought? And that question doesn't just apply to rulers or kings. It rules every space where power and attention collide: in love, in friendship, in negotiations, in social circles, in business. You don't win by running after people. You win by breaking the pattern they depend on. Because once the attention they took for granted disappears, they begin to starve. And starvation breeds obsession. If you're finding these Machiavellian tactics useful, hit like and subscribe so you never miss the next lesson in psychological warfare. People rarely value presence, they only feel its weight once it's gone. You can pour time, energy, affection, and support into someone, and they'll treat it like air. That's the fate of anything given too freely. But when you vanish, when the calls stop, the compliments end, when silence grows louder than words, realization strikes: that person made me feel something no one else does. Why do I care so much that they're gone? Did I ruin it? At first, they don't miss you. They miss the way they felt around you. That feeling is what makes them beg. Machiavelli understood this: controlling emotion is far more powerful than controlling logic. He put it simply: men desire most what is withheld, and grow tired of what is freely given. In today's terms, attention is currency. And the more you spend, the less it's worth. This is where most people fail: they mistake consistency for loyalty, when in reality, they're devaluing themselves. Be endlessly available, answer instantly, always show up no matter how you're treated, and you become cheap. Cut it off, and suddenly your attention is rare again. They remember how it felt, how special it was, how powerful they felt having it. Now they crave it like a drug, and you're the only source. This leads to the most lethal move: the clean, quiet vanishing act. Not ghosting. Not a dramatic exit. Precision. You stop checking in. You stop explaining. You stop filling the gaps with comfort. And here's the brutality: you do it not with hate, but with peace. They expect you to argue, to beg, to fight for a place. Instead, you let it end. That's what breaks them, because now they don't even get the satisfaction of knowing they got under your skin. No final scene, no explosion, no closure. Only the knowledge that you moved on without them. And slowly, the inner monologue begins. Why did they stop chasing? Did they meet someone else? Was I not enough? Were they faking everything? How could they let go so easily? Notice the shift: it's no longer about you, it's about them. Your silence becomes a mirror, and what they see terrifies them. You didn't just take away your attention, You took away their sense of significance. Now they don't just want you back, they want the version of themselves they were when you chased them. And the only way to reclaim that feeling is to beg. You can trigger this shift without a single word. If you always reply instantly, stop. If you always hand out compliments, withhold them. If you always make the plans, don't. This doesn't make you rude, it makes you unpredictable. And unpredictability is magnetic. Most people retreat with drama. They post quotes, vent to friends, make scenes. That isn't strategy, it's emotional leakage. The Machiavellian exit is different, clean, quiet, leaving no emotional fingerprints. Confusion is the hook, and confusion breeds interest. The secret isn't silence alone, it's evolution in silence. They left when you were ordinary, they return when they see your transformation. Success, calmness, growth, make your absence look like the best decision you ever made. That's when they realize, I didn't lose them, they lost me. And then comes the twist. When they finally start begging, they won't admit it openly. They'll say, I was thinking about you. Remember that time You've changed in a good way. We should catch up. Harmless words, but really fishing lines, bait disguised as kindness. What they want is not you, but the feeling you gave them when you chased. The roles are reversed. You're no longer an option, you're an opportunity. The opportunity they threw away, and now can't stop trying to win back. This is where most misunderstand. Withdrawal isn't about pain, it's about power. You don't leave because you're emotional. You leave because you're strategic. When they feel your absence as a calm conclusion rather than an insult, they don't just chase, they beg. Because the strongest grip on the human mind isn't love, anger, or words. It's the silent question. How did I lose what I thought I could always keep? That question echoes louder than any confrontation ever could. And once the echo starts, the spiral begins. Their mind won't rest. It wanders, it doubts, it panics. They revisit old conversations, reread old messages, replay memories, compare every new encounter to what they had with you. And nothing feels the same, because you weren't just another pursuer, you were the one who made them feel significant, then vanished without warning, without begging, without a trace. That's what burns. That's what makes them beg. Machiavelli knew, control doesn't come from constant presence, it comes from withdrawal. And eventually, they return. A message, a call. I've been thinking about you. But by then, everything has changed. You're no longer bitter. No longer waiting. Not broken. Indifferent. Here lies the paradox Machiavelli would delight in. They loved the version of you that chased them, but the version they now chase doesn't need them anymore. That is psychological domination at its peak. They're no longer chasing you, they're chasing the chance to matter to you again. And that's a chance you now control. The frame is reversed. You are the prize. Once you were the one proving, hoping, texting. Now they're the ones overthinking, typing, deleting, retyping, waiting for a reply that may never come. And the irony? They never saw your worth until you stopped giving it away. That is the tragedy of modern attention dynamics. People don't want connection, they want control over connection. And when you end the game without warning, you become the one thing they can't control. And that's why they obsess. Most people fail here. When the other side returns, they get emotional, they celebrate, they think, finally, I'm wanted again. But that's weakness. Machiavelli's way is sharper, respond only if it serves your position. Leverage, not sentiment, decides whether you engage. Power, once established, never bends back. They don't get the version who begged, only the version who forgot how. This is rule of kings and queens, selective presence, access only when it benefits the throne. Keep options hidden. Mystery fuels envy, and envy fuels pursuit. If they think they're your only choice, they grow arrogant. If they sense they're replaceable, they fight to matter. Even silence becomes a weapon. Each delayed reply makes them overthink, reread, and beg for clarity. Machiavelli never wasted energy on cheap mind games. His strategy was structural. If you want them to beg without forcing it, you follow iron rules. Always keep an option hidden. Another path, another project, another person they don't know exists. Never stake your worth on one connection. Mystery breeds envy, and envy breeds pursuit. If they think they're your only option, arrogance blooms. If they sense they're replaceable, they fight to secure their place. That's where timing becomes your weapon. Respond slower than expected. Every pause raises their investment. Every unread message tightens the hook. They refresh. They reread. They question themselves. They begin to spiral. And when they do hear from you, it must be polite yet distant. I'm in a different place now, or glad you're doing well. Courtesy masks exclusion. That limbo crushes them, because they're chasing a version of you that no longer exists. The goal isn't revenge but transformation. You don't punish them by withdrawing, you reclaim yourself. And when they see you've grown sharper, calmer, more untouchable, they realize the loss wasn't just you, it was the best version of themselves they ever felt around you. And transformation does not stop here. Silence is only the entry point, the first move in a far greater design. The deeper laws of power demand structure, strategy, and perspective. That is why the Machiavelli on Power as Design playlist exists, a framework that dissects manipulation, presence, and dominance step by step. Those who consume it begin to see the world differently, not as victims of attention, but as architects of it. Like, subscribe, and enter the system. The further you go, the fewer will ever be able to control you again.